Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Nico Chronicles. As always, I am your host, the one, the only, Nico Saracino. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this beautiful Thursday evening, June 22nd, 2017. Live from the North Jersey studios. This is episode number 49 of the Nico Chronicles, believe it or not. Episode number 49. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in to an episode of the Nico Chronicles. This is the second time in the studio, actually. Second time in the studio. As you guys know, we've been having some technological issues. Specifically, I'm making it sound all fancy. Technological issues in the sense that my computer has been acting up and everything like that. So I've resorted to a desktop, which is a lot better, I have to say. So definitely making do with what you have. But thank you guys for tuning in, as we're all set up on the technology here. Thursday night, June 22nd, 2017. As I said, episode number 49. First of all, as always, I'd like to wish a happy 10 weeks to my beautiful niece Enza. I believe she's 10 weeks. It's kind of getting to the point now where you lose track of the weeks. So yeah, it's been good. She's getting big. She's getting big for sure, and it's pretty unbelievable the way that's been working out. But shout out to her if she's tuning in. And if you guys want to call in, the number is 701-801-2251. You can go ahead and press 5 to chat, or you can watch me here on Facebook. Facebook.com/The Nico Chronicles. It's been a fun week in the world of the NBA. It's been a very fun week in the world of the NBA. So, a lot of trades going down. Tonight is the NBA Draft. NBA Draft 2017, live from the Barclays Center, is currently underway. It supposedly started at 7. I don't think it started on time. They're currently in the first round, almost halfway through. Miami's on the clock with the 14th pick in the draft. But the most notable pick, as I'm looking at the full draft board here, I think the most notable pick would have to be Lonzo Ball, obviously, as expected. Lonzo Ball, 6'6" point guard out of UCLA, drafted number 2 by the Lakers. And a lot of people were already speculating this for months, but after the trade the Lakers made a couple of days ago, for those of you guys who missed it, the Nets and Lakers actually made a trade. The Lakers actually shipped out D'Angelo Russell, who was the 3rd pick in the 2015 draft, and Timothy Mozgov, the big man. They traded them both for Brook Lopez and the number 27 pick in the draft. So a lot of people were speculating that letting go of Russell was to fill the void to leave space for Lonzo Ball, which seems to be what Magic Johnson was thinking. And not only that, guys, Timothy Mozgov, you guys may recall that last summer a bunch of people literally got paid millions upon millions. Like, even people who weren't starters, for example, got 50 plus, which was incredible. You know, it's great for NBA players. It's just ridiculous that everyone's, getting that payday now. But Timothy Mozgov signed a 3-year, $54 million deal with the Lakers last season. So that's a lot of baggage that the Nets are bringing on. And besides that, D'Angelo Russell, a lot of people are saying he's going to be a good dynamic duo with Karis LeVert. in the front court. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. And most recently, for those of you Jimmy Butler fans, Jimmy Butler officially, well, I don't know officially, but in principle, he has been traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves, which is a shock. Everyone was saying maybe Cleveland or Boston, perhaps. No. Jimmy Butler traded to the T-Wolves, according to the Chicago Tribune. The Bulls get Zach LaVine, which is one of the T-Wolves' best players, Chris Dunn, and the number 7 pick in the draft, which ended up being Lauri Markkanen. So, interesting trade by the Bulls. They must have. It was obviously the best pick, and the T-Wolves also got the number 16 pick from the Bulls as well, besides Jimmy Butler. So, not a bad package. But now what's interesting is that now Jimmy Butler, he has ties to the T-Wolves indirectly because of their head coach. Tom Thibodeau was the Bulls head coach for years, up until 2 years ago. So, coach and player are united, which is a good story. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in Minnesota with Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, obviously. So, look at Minnesota last season. I'm looking at the standings here. 13th in the West last year, but it's kind of misleading because the West is a lot stronger than the East when you want to compare. And the T-Wolves with 31 and 51. If you put them in the Eastern Conference, for example, that probably gets you the 10th seed. Maybe even 9, because you got to admit it's relatively weak for the most part. The league itself, everyone knows now, is extremely top-heavy. Okay, because in the East, of course, Boston and the Cavs, and then in the West, it's pretty much Spurs, Warriors for the most part. If you guys have any other arguments, any other players or teams, perhaps the Wizards in the East, more a third. They're a bit distant from the C's, though, and Cavs. Celtics, obviously, number 2, I would think. Cavs, number 1, just because you look at this season, how that worked out. Although the Celtics finished with the top record. So, that stuff is not always the best indicator of what's going to happen in the playoffs, as we witnessed. But yeah, very top-heavy league in my opinion there. I think a lot of people would agree with that statement. And so things are starting to shape up. And I'm happy we're talking about Boston here because there's one of the many NBA trade rumors going around currently. There's a rumor that, they're saying, there are multiple reports that Paul George is in talks, or that the Pacers are in talks to trade Paul George to Boston, which is interesting. Because according to a Bleacher Report article, and I think David Aldridge from TNT broke the story, Paul George a couple days ago told the Pacers that he wants to be traded, that he wants to go to the Lakers next season, that he's going to go to the Lakers. Because officially, Paul George, he will become a free agent in the summer of 2018. So the question is, are the Lakers able to take that risk and wait a season, and pick him up for practically nothing? A lot of people are arguing that whoever does pick up Paul George, whoever it is this offseason, if anyone does, or whatever the case may be, he would only be there for a season. So you got to think the team that picks him up has to have that win-now mentality. Or they have to be confident that they can keep the guy, either or. Because my Brooklyn Nets tried to do that a few years ago when they picked up Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Jason Terry. They had that win-now mentality, picking up those guys. They traded 3 first-round draft picks, 3 top picks, still paying for it till this day. They paid for it tonight. They could have had the number 1 pick in this draft because of the draft lottery. They finished with the worst record as well. So they could have had Markelle Fultz from Washington. Who got him instead? The Sixers. Technically it would have been the Celtics. The Celtics traded. They ended up with the 3rd pick, but nonetheless, that's another potentially, good quality player that the Nets missed out on. So of course they have to resort to making these trades. You know, it's clear that D'Angelo Russell and Karis LeVert are going to be the centerpieces for the Nets. You know, it's good that they're in the rebuilding process. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They're in the rebuilding process, and that's a good start with two young guards in the front court. So it's promising. I'm just disappointed that the Nets released their brightest spot on the roster in Brook Lopez. You know, Jeremy Lin, we can't forget that he's there as well. Isaiah Whitehead as well. But Lin, he's been struggling with injuries all last season, the past couple of years. So we don't even know if we can count on the guy to play. That's the problem. I mean, that's the truth. As much as it hurts me to say, he's an exciting player when he's on point, but when he's not 100%, it's tough. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what happens. And let us not forget, guys, another trade that happened yesterday, actually. As the man was tweeting, okay, this is funny. As Dwight Howard was tweeting about NBA trade scenarios and NBA rumors and all this, and probably Paul George was mentioned in that combo, literally as it was happening, Dwight Howard was dealt to the Charlotte Hornets, ironically. And then players were like, dude, what are your thoughts on you getting traded? What are your thoughts on the Dwight Howard trade to the Hornets? So he must have felt so ridiculous for not realizing. But yeah, Dwight Howard, formerly of the Atlanta Hawks, was traded to the Hornets. So the specifics are Howard and a 31st pick, the 31st pick of the next draft, which will be the first pick of round 2, I believe. So him and a 31st pick to Charlotte for Miles Plumlee, the center. Marco Bellinelli, the former sharpshooter for the San Antonio Spurs for a while, and was also on the Bulls, Spurs and Bulls, and the 41st pick. So all these picks, guys, are getting thrown around left and right here. It's just the thing is, you never know about how valuable these draft picks are going to be. Being a top 5 pick in the NBA draft, quite frankly, means absolutely nothing until you prove yourself. In order to start, in the Vegas Summer League coming up, or maybe Orlando now, coming up in a few weeks. So, honestly, NBA doesn't really stop. I mean, the NBA Finals officially end in June, of course, but it's followed by today's draft, this evening's draft, then the Vegas Summer League, then in September and October you get training camp, and end of October, early November, boom, started the NBA regular season. So there's really never a dull moment, if you're a sports fan. And of course there's NFL, which picks up in August, so there's that. And if you like baseball, that's currently going on. There's World Cup, 2018 World Cup qualifiers, we're in the midst of that. So despite the popular belief that maybe this summer is a little slow for sports, there's actually a lot going on. I think you just gotta be a bit of a more dedicated fan, be willing to watch the other events that surround the sports. Like basketball, there's not of course, as I said, official games. So it'll be interesting. But I can say there is FIBA 3-on-3 pickup basketball going on right now, if you guys are into that, which features a lot of players not in the NBA and not professional athletes, I don't think. So it gives them a chance to prove their skills. The court's more spread out, things like that. So that's interesting. Check them out. I think it's 3vs3 on Facebook. You can check out their page. They live stream the games. I think they're also on television as well. So a lot of action going on in the NBA. For those of you in the Northeast, obviously I'm here in North Jersey. I personally am a Nets fan, Brooklyn Nets fan. But for those of you Knicks fans, and I apologize, you almost have it as bad as a Brooklyn Nets fan, but for those of you who are Knicks fans, you must be so frustrated right now because there's another report going up that the Knicks, Phil Jackson, James Dolan, the whole squad is listening to offers for 21-year-old Kristaps Porzingis. I want to hear your thoughts on that, if you guys have any, because what are they doing? It better be worth it if you're going to accept the trade for Porzingis. That guy has so much upside. He's one of their, I hate to use the phrase again, but he's like one of their brightest spots, just like Brook Lopez was for the Nets. I mean, you have Carmelo Anthony, of course, one of the best scorers in the league. There's no doubt about that. He reportedly wants to stay in New York, but if he moves on and Porzingis is gone, what does that leave you on the Knicks? I mean, quite honestly, I'm not familiar with their roster too well. But off the top of my head, I don't think it's any really big-name players. It's a lot of younger guys. Courtney Lee, that's the one guy that comes to mind besides Porzingis and Melo. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to be curious to see if they decide to ship him out. Because Porzingis has expressed a lot of displeasure, I think, in the triangle offense and with Phil Jackson. And even on the other side, Phil Jackson, it's like a love triangle there. Phil Jackson has expressed, he hasn't been very satisfied or, happy with Carmelo Anthony. He's kind of suggesting he should be out of New York. So it's kind of an awkward situation. Wouldn't you say if Porzingis or Melo stay? I feel like it's going to cause some sort of controversy. So it's pretty much a lose-lose right now, in my opinion, for New York Knicks fans. Yes, it is Midtown Manhattan. You're playing in the Garden. There's no other place like it. Don't get me wrong. But it's tough to make that argument when nobody's there. It's like, what is the chance that you win a championship there in the next few years? Right now, it's not very high. I'm not going to lie to you. If they pick up a couple big names, if Porzingis and Melo stay and they pick up another guy, do your chances increase tremendously? Yeah. But I quite honestly think that the Lakers next season, after LeBron James is a free agent, the Lakers have a better chance of signing LeBron James than the Knicks do of picking up any quality player. I hate to say it, but it's true. Because let's look at the Lakers right now. Okay, first it's LA, Staples Center. You got Lonzo Ball, Brook Lopez. A lot of young talent there already. It's not a championship caliber team, but it's a team with a lot of upside and a lot of potential. So that adds excitement. That adds a lot of excitement to the team. And as the articles put it, LeBron's got a lot of future endeavors in LA. I think his wife might have a business there as well, or he has businesses there. I mean, he's all over the place, so LA would be a convenient spot for him to land. If not the Lakers, then certainly the Clippers. Okay, so it's just so much fun to discuss this because these are just simply hypotheticals. Obviously, nothing's been confirmed besides the Jimmy Butler trade and the Dwight Howard trade and the Nets trade. There's like a million other rumors going out there swirling that'll be thrown to the wayside, thrown to the mat, under the rug, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, reporters in the media and all these outlets love to talk about it because it's entertaining. It sparks debate, and like I said, it's a 50-50 chance that you're right, that it actually happens. Here's an example. Okay, Exhibit A. There was an article on NBA.com about an hour ago that the San Antonio Spurs were reportedly shopping around LaMarcus Aldridge, who had a heck of a Western Conference Finals for the Spurs, by the way, this season. Although he struggled initially, but they're shopping him out, or they were trying to trade him for a top 10 pick in this year's draft. Now, obviously, number 10, the Kings picked up Zach Collins out of Gonzaga, the big man. So that obviously didn't happen. So I'm interested to see what happens now. With Mr. Aldridge. We'll see. I'm just ready for the regular season to start, to be honest with you. Although it is exciting, as I said before, it could not come soon enough. What's the official countdown now? Just about 4 months, a little more than 4 months. So that'll be interesting. But of course, I think the top two picks are predictable. Jason Tatum at number 3 was drafted by the Celtics. De'Aaron Fox, whose father claims that Fox, and Fox might have said it too, he claims that he was better than Lonzo Ball. A little trash talk. We'll see what happens this regular season, but he was picked up with the 5th pick by the Kings. You know, reportedly when Duke and UCLA went head-to-head this season, Fox did outplay Lonzo Ball. So that's probably where that came from. And I was talking about this with one of my coworkers earlier. The New York Knicks, you remember when they picked up Porzingis last season and everybody was booing the heck out of him? Of course, he's from Latvia, I believe he's from. The New York Knicks, again, they go with the international theme, which I don't know if it's just a coincidence or they just like to, they have extra scouts out there, but with the 8th pick, the Knicks picked up Frank Ntilikina. And my apologies if I'm mispronouncing his last name. But Frank Ntilikina, out of SIG Strasbourg in France. Good guard for them, 6'5", 190 pounds. No Jose Calderon there anymore, so they do need a guard with the Knicks. Courtney Lee, I think, comes off the bench sometimes, and they traded quite a few guards as well, so he's got some upside as well. I mean, you look at his stats. They're not going to blow you away. 5 points a game, 43% from 3. Horrendous free throw shooter, actually, 62%. But when he played in the FIBA with France, he averaged 15 points in those games. And he had 31 points in the title win with Lithuania. So, I mean, the kid, when he wants to turn on the Jets, he can turn on the Gents. When he wants to flip the switch, as people like to say. Jeff Van Gundy does not like that, but when he wants to flip the switch, as some people say, I guess he can. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with him as well. But yeah, we're currently looking at the full draft board here, guys. We're currently at pick number 17. Jason Kidd's Milwaukee Bucks are currently on the clock. Another exciting team with Jabari Parker. Another young team. It's a shame that he got injured last season, or else they would have gone far in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens with that. I think right now, though, with all these trades pending and whatnot, I think to me the most exciting storyline is what's going to happen with Paul George. Because a lot of these top contenders are looking for a player to put them over the top. You know, I said the Spurs were shopping LaMarcus Aldridge. They wanna put them over the top over the Warriors, obviously. Are they gonna pick someone up? Who knows? It's gonna be a tough. It's gonna be a long offseason for them. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens if they get someone up before tonight. If they wait till after July 1st. We'll see. But in the East especially, there is a significant gap between the Cavs and the Celtics, I would say. And then there's the rest of the East. And as I said with the West, same. You have Warriors, Spurs, rest of the West. So you gotta assume if a team like the Celtics or the Spurs get somebody of PG-13, aka Paul George's caliber, that could even the playing field for them. It would separate down from the rest of the other teams that they already separated from. So essentially, it would help with a super team kind of idea. So we'll see what happens. Does he stay in Indy for a season and then go to the Lakers next season? Does he stay in Indy this season and go to a random team next season? Does he go to the Celtics now? Who knows? You never know, because we were all pretty convinced that Jimmy Butler might go to the Cavaliers. And then reportedly, when they fired the general manager, players such as Kyrie Irving and LeBron were saying, oh, this, it's kind of toxic here right now. It's a messy situation. Perhaps you shouldn't be coming here. Perhaps you should look elsewhere, which is interesting. you gotta appreciate the honesty, because he did talk to those guys, according to the reports. Looks like they were trying to recruit him to the promised land, but obviously that didn't happen. As I said earlier, it took an unexpected turn to the T-Wolves. Although Tom Thibodeau's there, there's that connection, but I think everybody was pretty much blindsided by this. So, if that's any indication of how these NBA trades go, or if that's going to present any kind of lesson, it's that you never know until the deal's done. As Yogi Berra once said, it ain't over till the fat lady sinks. So, stay tuned, guys. If you're interested in watching the draft, it is currently on ESPN. Should be going for a few more hours, I would assume, because we have like 40. Let's see, they're on the 17th pick with the Bucks, so 30 picks per round, 2 rounds. You got 47 picks left, so you got quite a bit of NBA footage to watch if you guys are interested. It is on ESPN. If not, you can follow it on NBA.com, what have you. So I'm going to be tuning in. I'm going to be following the NBA.com reports too. It's like you don't want to fall asleep because you're afraid you're going to miss something, but we'll see. We'll see what happens when I wake up tomorrow, if there's any new trades, any new signings, whatever the case may be. We'll see. But I thank you guys for tuning in to episode 49. It's been a blast. It's always a blast talking to you guys, talking a little NBA. I'll be back next week for episode number 50. You see how I did that in the air? 50. I'm going to try to make it a big one. I have some stuff in the works for you. I don't want to make any promises. Promise me no promises. You know that cheat code sends a lot of song? That's what I'm going to promise you, no promises. Could a guest be in the works? Perhaps. Could there be good storylines, good traits to talk about? Perhaps. Who the heck knows? What's going to be the topic of discussion? You guys will have to follow on social media for that, but until then, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 49. I wish you guys a fabulous rest of your Thursday evening. Have yourselves a great weekend, and we'll talk soon. Take care.